Shaquille O'Neal. Just hearing the name is enough to bring back memories of slam dunks, roaring crowds, and a towering figure who dominated basketball for decades. But what happens when one of the most recognizable athletes in the world decides to step off the court and walk into the world of fashion? What happens when a man known for breaking backboards decides to break stereotypes about style, confidence, and body image? This is the story of how Shaq went from being the ultimate basketball legend to becoming a pioneer in big and tall fashion. And trust me, the way he tells it will surprise you. For years, Shaq's larger-than-life presence didn't stop at the court. Standing over 7 feet tall with a frame built for power, he was a force of nature. But that same size, the size that made him unstoppable in the paint, became his biggest challenge when it came to fashion. Imagine being one of the most famous athletes in the world. You're a multi-millionaire, cameras follow you everywhere, and your image is plastered on billboards across the globe. But when you walk into a store to buy a suit, nothing fits, nothing feels right. The racks are filled with options for regular guys, but when you look for your size, all you find are bland patterns, outdated plaids, and styles that feel more like they belong to your grandfather than to you. Shaq remembers it vividly. When I was playing, I'd try to go into stores looking for suits. I could never find anything that actually fit. And sure, I could spend $1,500, $2,000, or even $4,000 for something custom. But why should it be that way? Why should big guys have to choose between overpaying or settling for styles that didn't reflect who we really are? It wasn't just about money. It was about identity, about confidence, about the message fashion sends. Because clothes aren't just fabric stitched together. They're an expression of personality. And for years, big and tall men were left out of that conversation. They were told through silence, through lack of options, that style wasn't for them. Shaq had enough. And when Shaq decides he's had enough of something, you can bet he's going to do something about it. He teamed up with JCPenney, one of the biggest retailers in the country, to design a line that gave men like him the same kind of fashionable options everyone else had. I wanted to wear what the young guys were wearing. I wanted to wear what the little guys were wearing. And finally, with JCPenney, we made it happen. The line wasn't just successful, it was groundbreaking. For the first time, men who had always felt excluded suddenly saw themselves reflected in the world of fashion. They weren't an afterthought. They weren't hidden in the back of the store with extended sizes. They were front and center. But Shaq being Shaq, he wasn't satisfied with just creating clothes. He saw a bigger problem, a deeper gap. We had the clothes, he explained, but we didn't have the models. We didn't have people showing what it looks like when big guys wear these styles with confidence. So I said, why not create a big and tall model search? What happened next was beyond anyone's expectations. Over 15,000 men submitted entries. Men from every background, every walk of life, united by one thing: they wanted to be seen. After months of sorting through applications, Shaq and his team picked 3 winners. These weren't just models, they were symbols. Proof that style has no size limit. Proof that confidence belongs to everyone. The impact was immediate. Wilhelmina Models, one of the most prestigious agencies in the world, took notice. They launched their own big and tall division called the Titan Division. For the first time in history, big and tall men had a dedicated space in the world of professional modeling. Shaq knew exactly how these men felt, because he'd lived it. Big guys, we never had sexy options. We never had variety. We were given 2 colors, 2 cuts, and told to deal with it. But these guys, they wanted to be seen. They wanted to feel good in their own skin, and now they finally could. When asked how he felt about the men chosen, Shaq's face lit up. They were amazing, handsome, confident, and most importantly, they were ready. This is something they always dreamed of doing, but they didn't have the opportunity or the confidence before. Now they're showing the world what big and tall looks like when it's done right. But Shaq being Shaq, the conversation didn't stay serious for long. Known for his humor, he was soon asked to show off his own modeling skills, and of course, he couldn't resist. He struck poses, flirty, playful, happy, and even pouty. The audience burst into laughter. Seeing a man his size, known for his intimidating presence on the court, suddenly act like a runway model was comedy gold. But beneath the humor was a message. Fashion is fun, fashion is expressive, and fashion is for everyone. The interview quickly turned playful when co-host Liliana chimed in. The two shared banter about DMs, dates, and secret compliments. At one point, Shaq grinned and dropped a line that had everyone laughing. Once you go Shaq, you never go back. It was vintage Shaq, flirty, funny, larger than life. But hidden in the laughter was something deeper. Shaq showing the world that confidence comes from embracing who you are, no matter your size. As the conversation shifted, we got rare glimpses into his personal life. Asked what's on his playlist, Shaq mentioned new artists he was vibing with. Asked about his mornings, he admitted with a chuckle, "First thing I do when I wake up, I say, hey, you all right?" His mix of honesty and humor kept everyone hooked, but perhaps the most powerful moment came when he talked about admiration. "I've always been a fan of Shakira," he said. "She's talented, she's kind, and she's always been nice to me." It was a reminder that even the biggest legends in the world have people they look up to. By the end of the interview, one thing was clear: Shaquille O'Neal is more than just a basketball legend. He's more than just a TV personality. He's a man on a mission to redefine what it means to be stylish, to break barriers for big and tall men, and to remind the world that fashion isn't about size, it's about confidence. And that's what makes this story so powerful. Because Shaq's journey isn't just about him, it's about every man who ever walked into a store and felt invisible. It's about every guy who ever thought style wasn't for him. It's about proving once and for all that confidence has no limits. So the next time you see a big and tall model strutting confidently down a runway, remember, it all started with a man who refused to settle for bland suits and outdated options. A man who decided that if the fashion industry wouldn't make space for him, he'd make space for himself and everyone else like him. Shaquille O'Neal changed the game in basketball. Now he's changing the game in fashion. And something tells me he's just getting started.